guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. We are in upstate New York for the media drive, the first media drive of this vehicle right here. What is it? It's the updated, changed up, refreshed 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. This particular one is an SEL Premium R-Line trim. But before we get into this all-wheel drive, mid-size, three-row SUV, let's talk about what's going on here. It really hasn't been that long since the Atlas was first introduced. It actually came about in 2016, and in 2017 is when, after the unveiling, they had production models at your local Volkswagen dealership. Now, what's fascinating is that many years ago, Volkswagen wasn't making many SUVs, but now, fast forward to model year 2024, that is primarily what their lineup is built upon here in the United States. Now, when it comes to crossover SUVs, you can get them all different shapes, all different sizes. This is currently the largest Volkswagen available in the United States, known as the Atlas. It's got that three-row flexibility, a lot of hot competition in this segment. But I want to compare it to one of the OGs that's been around since Y2K. That's going to be the Toyota Highlander. And what's fascinating is that some of the changes for this model year that the Atlas has received, so has the Highlander. So let's go ahead, let's dive into this Atlas, find out, is it the best new mid-size SUV you should be buying compared to the Toyota Highlander? Let's go ahead, let's dive in and find out. Right off the bat, the shape. I like the overall size of the Atlas, and I like the bold design. It really brings a lot of clean, bold German styling to the midsize segment. Now, at the front of the business is where you're gonna see a bulk of the change. We have all new LED headlights, projector beam LED headlights. I like the way they double stacked it in there. It's almost like a double stuffed Oreo cookie. We have LED turn signals and LED daytime running lamps. One of the things that I'm gonna point out is how the daytime running lamp now runs across, but we'll get more to what's in the center, in the sweet spot, in a second. We drop down, what do we have? We have a large area of gloss black, and I am gonna have to zonk it. The reason why is I would like to see some LED fog lamps. It's a very large area. It looks sporty, and I like the way they changed it up compared to the previous model year. But some LED fog lamps, I think, would not only styling-wise look well, but also, of course, functional lighting. Who can't use more lighting, especially at night in upstate New York? You get a little bit of chrome trim, nothing too blingy. And then as we come across that big Atlas-sized grille, there it is, the people's car, Volkswagen, Farfanugan. Love the way it's all LED lit. It's a little hard to catch on camera, but this actually illuminates with your LED daytime running lamp all the way across the brow of the front of the vehicle. We do have our updated R badge. This isn't an R, it's an R line, but I like the way they did that style. And it's cleanly kind of blended in nicely with the overall grille. Now on this particular trim, we have gloss black, horizontal slots, a little bit of gloss black accent, full functionality, and a forward-facing camera. Now working your way down, clean, straight lines really falls into play with overall German style. Just a little bit more sprinkling of chrome. It's sort of like when you sprinkle some sugar on your Rice Krispies. They just put a little bit of sprinkling and then some gloss black on the bottom lip area. Now, as we rise up, that bold style still is present. And this hood is exactly the same hood as the previous model year. So you have those nice straight lines, clean, crisp. You compare this to the front of a Highlander. Highlander looks a little bit more kind of rounded, a little softer. So it really plays into what you want in particular when it comes to your overall style of your midsize SUV. Now, as we come around the bend, you're gonna notice some big, ginormous things on our particular Atlas. You're gonna have this machined aluminum wheel. This is a 21-inch wheel, so larger wheel than what you could get on a Highlander. Highlander, remember, is 20-inch wheels. And the tire size, 265 on the width, 45 series sidewall. Same thing with the overall style. I think this wheel is very indicative of what Volkswagen brings when it comes to that clean style. The machined aluminum, the V-spoke design all the way around with the gloss black. And then of course, what they did was, it wasn't just a refresh, they reworked the suspension, especially for what's under the hood, which we'll get to that in a few moments. But we have the 4Motion, which is Volkswagen's all-wheel drive. It's front-wheel drive based, because you can still get an Atlas front-wheel drive if you don't want 4Motion. This particular one has the 4Motion, which means we're gonna send power to those rear wheels. One of the zonks on the side, and I wanna get your input on this, is the flat black. This is the top trim, SEL Premium R-Line. I would like this to all be color matched around the fender opening. Let me know how you feel about that. That's what I would prefer. Now coming down the fender, this is another part that I like that's been on the Atlas for a very long time, is that nice line that flows into the side badging. And I'm glad that they put this trim here. It really kind of brings a little bit of extra pizzazz to the door panel, to the fender. And it's not meant to look like a vent. Just a little bit more of that chrome, the R badge. We do have LED lighting up top, color matched mirror caps, and then we have the bright shiny metalwork, not only top, but also on the bottom of the window frames, and then a little bit of chrome along that lower portion. The great news is, this is all body colored. I just wish they would have put the body color on the fender openings, at least on this trim. I'm very happy to report that you're still getting raised roof rails. Wait until you see the panoramic roof that's hiding in between those roof rails. But the side of the vehicle, this is all the same, except for the wheels. Wheels they change, side of the vehicle is the same as the previous model year. The way you're able to trace your finger along that body line, just, it feels really good, and aesthetically, it's very pleasing to the eye. We're gonna watch out for this big rock pile here, because we're, like I said, upstate New York. Swinging around the back, you got a nice long roof spoiler. They need to tuck this underneath. Look at how much room there is underneath. Steven, show them. It's like you could fit almost a massive apple. Because, you know, we're in the Big Apple. You could put that apple underneath there and hold it for later. So the wiper would have looked nicer underneath the spoiler and have it swing down. But this is all new for 2024. LED lighting, turn signals, brake lights, and then they brought the LED lighting all the way across. Even the Volkswagen badge illuminates red on the back of the vehicle. And it's funny, it's the little things. You know, when it comes to these refreshes, sometimes it's the smallest of changes that really equal a big change. In the end is the Atlas name, how they blend it nicely into the chrome trim. It's like you almost don't see it unless you want to see it. I like that. We got our 4Motion badge, that's the all-wheel drive. And then we're gonna finish this off with some pluses and some minuses. One of the minuses is the zonk that we got fake exhaust. Why do we need fake exhaust? That would look great if it was functional, especially with the chrome around it. But the great news is you still get your towing capability, 5. Not a 5-finger discount, 5,000 pounds towing capacity. But let's get to the biggest surprise. Well, besides the interior, let's pop the hood and see what's powering our 2024 Atlas. All right, guys, we got the hood popped. You do have a single hydraulic hood strut to open up the massive hood. Underneath the hood, there's a big change. And when I say big, it's actually something that's smaller. So the V6 is no longer available. That is gone. And you used to have a base 4-cylinder turbo. Well, guess what? They got rid of that engine too. This is a 2-liter inline-4 turbocharged engine that is new for 2024. Now, before you write a letter to Volkswagen saying that you're so upset that they don't have a V6 anymore, listen to the numbers. 269 horsepower. That's almost as much horsepower as the V6, but here's the kicker. 273 pound-feet of torque. That's 28% more torque from this 2-liter inline-4 turbocharged engine. It is mated to an 8-speed automatic that is now shift-by-wire, but here's the real big news. 0 to 60 is faster than the V6. So on the V6, it was about 8 seconds. On this vehicle with the 4Motion, you're looking at 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. Like I had mentioned, you could tow up to 5,000 pounds. MPGs, if you go front-wheel drive, You're looking at 20 in the city, 27 on the highway with our all-wheel drive 4Motion, 19 in the city, 25 on the highway. You have a broader rev range for where that torque comes in. And of course, now the Atlas finally gets all the safety features, which are known as IQ Drive. Now, if we're comparing this to the Highlander, it's actually a pretty smart comparison, if I do say so myself, because the Highlander got rid of the V6. Remember, you only have a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine available on the Highlander. So very, very close comparing the two. But why don't we go ahead, let's fire this up and see it in motion. All right, guys, we are inside this 2024 Atlas SEL Premium R-Line. I know you're saying to yourself, well, Joe, I'm a drummer that likes to beat a different drum. I got all my friends telling me that love Toyota that I should get a Highlander. I don't want a Highlander. I don't want to be like them. And you know what? My dad was at Woodstock. He got to see Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin. So I'm really digging this different kind of drum. But how much is it? Very good question. MSRP for this particular Atlas is right at $52,455. Let's see what you get for the money. To the door panels. I like the two-tone style. That color is called chalk with the wood grain. You have soft touch up top, that wood grain trim. You have 30 different ambient colors. It's like fruit stripe gum. Harman Kardon sound system, no gloss black. The stitching, the perforated material, very classy without being too obnoxious. And then you got a nice sized door pocket. Easily will put 2 New York strip steaks in there with some A1 steak sauce. Now going from the door panel to the dash, there's more of that nice wood finish, just a little bit of gloss black, but you'll notice how they brought the premium materials onto other surfaces, like below where the gloss black area is, perforated with the stitching. You slide on in, what do you get? You get 12 inches of infotainment. Previous model year was 8 inches. So 4 extra inches. The one zonk is that it does not have any physical knobs or buttons, and that seems to be the sore spot with this infotainment system. But once you get the hang of it, it is quite easy to use. You got your navigation, your wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, all of the different ways of swiping through the screens very easily. So I do like that. It's just making fine adjustments is where this thing gets a little tricky. When it comes to AC controls, you can touch right on the screen. You got heated seats, ventilated seats, 3 stages each, dual climate control, and then you could actually have smart climate or air care where it filters out. And that's important, especially from the smoke that's been coming down from Canada into New York. The one thing that's interesting is if you don't want to touch the screen to activate it, you do have this little cluster down here. And you have your mode, your climate, your menu. So I hit mode, and then now we're in our different modes. Sport, custom, off-road, snow, eco. Nice to have all those different modes. You know we're going to leave it in sport here on Rady's Rides. Let me throw it into reverse with the electric shifter. First time. I wish they would have updated that backup camera. I do like the way it takes up most of the screen, but as you can see, it's a little grainy, just like all the grainy rocks that are on the ground there. So that is a bit of a zonk, but you do have a trajectory, and we got our 360-degree cameras, which is wonderful. Put it right back in the park, and here we are. And I like the way when you go in the modes, it actually changes the colors of everything. I'll pull our navigation back up. We're actually going to where Woodstock was held and be able to sit out there in the field where Jimi Hendrix was playing the national anthem on his guitar. Now, in the center console, this is a little gloss black heavy. The good news is most people will probably have that open. The reason why is you have your wireless charger, 2 USB-Cs, and some space for some Jolly Ranchers. Close it up. Down below, this is new. Because we have the electric shifter, you could actually put a signed football that your grandfather gave you of all the New York Giants easily on this area. Or you could put a purse, a merce, a sack, a satchel. Let's say you buy a 5-pound bag of red delicious apples. You could put them down there very easily. Love the stitching. You got another area here for 2 Twinkies. Just drop it in the Twinkie slot. Here's your Volkswagen key fob, looking very classy. I do like the way it matches the interior. This little guy right here, this little nub is going to control your 8-speed automatic. That chalk is very tasteful, very soft with the stitching. Open it up, you got another USB-C, and easily you could put 4 ceramic statues of the Statue of Liberty. 4 of those statues that they sell at the souvenir store down on Ellis Island. You could put that there. And here's a little fun fact. My father and his family actually went through Ellis Island because my dad is from Sicily. So just a little fun fact about my family history. And then the seats. New leather, the piping, the great quilted stitching. You do have full electric assist for the passenger. Of course, we have full electric assist for the driver. And we have that ginormous panoramic sunroof with the power shade. Like the way it's easy to operate, one-touch operation. But why don't you come over to the business end? I got a flat bottom steering wheel with your name on it I want to show you. Come on over. All right, guys, business time behind the wheel. I do like the way you have the nice aluminum sill plate down below. And Volkswagen does an awesome pedal box. You have an aluminum dead pedal, brake, and throttle. And what's great is that on the side is where you have your seat controls. So you have your seat controls, easily adjustable with 3 memory seat settings. I'm 6 feet tall. Plenty of room in here. And then the steering wheel. Nice leather, flat bottom with the R badge because we have the R line. You have your flat black on the buttons. Paddles to go up and down the 8-speed automatic. It is a manual tilting and telescoping steering wheel. And then you have that beautiful 10.25-inch digital gauge cluster. Like the way you could change it up, bring the navigation over. Many different settings on how you want to have the information. Ooh, I really like that. You got the gear indicator across the top and everything nicely ornamented. And I think that's one of those things that Volkswagen Auto Group just does a really great job on getting through all of that information in a clear, concise way. You do have a head-up display, and they also have a USB-C up top here so that if you're running a dash cam, you could just easily plug it in. That's smart thinking. But why don't we go ahead, let's get to the mid-row and see if your passengers are gonna be happy you went with this over a Highlander. All right, guys, backseat time, and I'm telling you, this is where the Atlas shows its muscle. There's so much room back here, and it's nicely laid out. Like I said, 6 feet tall, not even close to the headliner. You do have pretty good sized pockets. You could get a couple slices of New York pizza, and obviously if you're doing New York, you're doing thin crust, and you're gonna have to fold it to get it in there because New York slices are just bigger than anybody else's, including Chicago. And we all know that thin crust is better than deep dish. I'm just saying. I'm also saying that we have our AC controls, nice large AC vents. You have your controls all back here. You do have 3 stages of heated seats, no ventilated seats, and that's gonna be a zonk on the top trim. Down below, you have your home power source, 2 USB-Cs, and then of course the seats, very comfortable with the recline. Love the material. Pull this bad boy down. It's close. I'm gonna have to give it a half a zonk because I need just a little bit more armrest for my arm, but you have the 2 cup holders, and I'm so glad that they did the same material. But why don't we get into the last piece of the puzzle, the rear seats, to see if this is better than the Highlander. All right, guys, 3rd row time, and you know what? I know Toyota was bragging about the Grand Highlander having more room. It feels like this Atlas has almost as much room as the Grand Highlander. It might actually have, when it comes to passenger space. I mean, like I said, I'm still 6 feet tall, not even close to the headliner. They do a good job carving that out, just like you carve a pumpkin for Halloween. I like where they put the AC vents. You have USB-Cs, some cup holders. I just would like a better armrest. But look at the seats, the same exact stitching as everybody else. The headrest makes me think of like Attack of the Killer Drones, the Clone Wars. This looks like a freaking drone from the Clone Wars movie. Just kind of weird like that, but definitely comfortable. I mean, you want to put your head against it, which is nice. But why don't we go ahead, let's get in the cargo area, because I'm ready to see if this turbocharged four-banger has enough power for the mighty Atlas. Right, guys, cargo area time. You're gonna hit the button right under L for lift back. Lifts right up, nice electric assist. You're gonna be greeted to the same great amount of space. Now, what are we looking at? We're looking at 20.6 cubic feet of space with the seats up. I love the way they have these large nooks. You can literally put 2 gallons of chocolate milk and have 2 full boxes of Twinkies on the passenger side. We do have a 12 volt, which is very nice, easy to get to in that back area. We lift up the cargo place. You do have your subwoofer, but you know what? You do have other nooks for snacks, and I like the way they have this separated. So you could put $1 million back here. No, not $1 million in cash, $1 million worth of 100 grand bars easily. Close that up, and then to put the seats down, I don't need electric assist for that. To me, this is just so simple. You just lift up, you push down. Now we have 55.5 cubic feet of space. You do have your nice little nook over here. You could put 2 bananas. You got 2 USB-Cs. You got rear AC vents that I was trying to point out to you when I was in the 3rd row. And I like these little holders. Like you put some nachos there, some melted cheese. That's gonna make things much more palatable as you're driving. And then of course you could put down the mid row, which is gonna give you 96.8 cubic feet of space. One thing I wanna show you is just look how flat everything is. That's one of my favorite parts of this. So when you're sliding out the wood from Home Depot and you're in that crazy parking lot where people are honking at you because you parked your Atlas in the no parking zone, but you're like, hey, I got all this wood I gotta load. What am I supposed to do? You got plenty of room for that, but you know what? I'm all about the twisty bits. And from what I understand, there's some twisty bits to be had here in upstate New York. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's go 4Motion on throttle in this Atlas. All right, guys, we are behind the wheel of this 2024 Volkswagen Atlas with that 2-liter turbocharged inline 4 engine with the 8-speed automatic. I'm gonna come to a complete stop. Nobody is behind us, so I could show you that this is what's going to be the acceleration experience. Are you ready? On throttle, here we go. So you are getting sound pumped into the cabin. The good news is it doesn't sound too obnoxious. We do have it in sport mode, so when you're in sport mode, that's gonna adjust how the transmission and the engine behaves with one another. So it's gonna hang on to that higher gear so that they keep you more in the sweet spot rev-wise, but definitely quicker. Feels quicker, and it is quicker than a previous model year Atlas with the V6. Obviously, a previous one with the 4-cylinder, the other 4-cylinder turbo, this one is much faster. So it's one of those things that, like I said, I think at first when you hear 4-cylinder turbo, you're like, ew, I want my V6, but still has 5,000 pounds towing capacity, and you have just as much, almost just as much horsepower and more torque, way more torque. The digital gauge cluster is a pleasure to read, a pleasure to look at, and a pleasure to operate through. And the reason why is that it has physical buttons. I like the way the steering wheel buttons, obviously very easy to use. It's the infotainment, especially when you say the V word, which we all know what that is because that's the brand that we're driving. Then the assistant comes on and I want to shut her up, and it's like I got to search and look for some button on the screen. It's like I'd rather just have a physical button. Plus you'll notice, especially in the sun, there's some heavy duty greasy fingerprints. Steven was eating some fried chicken for lunch and we got some greasy fingerprints on the controls here. But from a ride perspective, I love the way they reworked the suspension with the 4-cylinder turbo. Obviously, the 4Motion all-wheel drive you saw when we got on throttle gives you all that grip and stick, no slip, and you have your different modes so that if you're living up north and it snows, you have that special mode that will actually tweak everything. I think one of the things I've always liked about an Atlas is just the visibility out the front windshield. You have a nice bold hood, and it's easy to see where your reference points are with the body of the vehicle. You have your IQ drive, first time on the Atlas, all the safety features, and that 3-row flexibility. But going down the road here in this SEL Premium R line, they did a good job with the sound deadening material, not too much road noise, even though we're on 21-inch wheels and tires. And the seats, I think that's one of my favorite things about this refreshed Atlas, is not only do they look good, but they feel good when you're sitting. All right, guys, we're on a little bit of a back road here, and definitely want to showcase, like I said, where that torque curve is. It's not necessarily horsepower that really is the most important thing. It's torque, and where does that torque come in? So what the engineers did was they moved the torque curve lower in the rev range, so that as you're driving, say, a twisty road like we're on now, you're gonna be in that sweet spot. You could use the paddles. It gives you a gear indicator, 3rd gear, on throttle, here we go. Love the way that they found us this twisty road. And surprisingly, there's not a ton of body roll in the Atlas. Now, this isn't some, you know, high performance Atlas R or something like that, but the great news is that you can feel confident from the composed driving experience. It's not like you're swaying all over the place like a rubber ducky in a bathtub full of water. It's like nice, smooth, controllable, and of course that 4Motion all-wheel drive is definitely helping with the experience. The paddles are plastic and they are a little on the smaller side, but I think most people would probably just let the 8-speed do its thing and not be concerned with the paddles so much. I wish, especially in sport mode, that there was a little bit more feedback to the wheel. It's a little light on the steering, which I know for a lot of people, they like a very light steering feel, but at least when you're in sport mode, I would prefer the steering to be a little heavier and give me a little bit more feedback. But other than that, from a balance standpoint, I mean, really, really nice. Even over the bumps. I mean, yeah, of course you're gonna get a little bit of an upset with the chassis, but it's controllable, and that 4Motion keeps you planted all 4 corners. But this is what I live for. The twisty bits is where I want to be. A nice ribbon of road. It's like you're surfing the asphalt. I just wish I was in a Golf R right about now. Manual, of course. But brakes feel good. It's the seats. The seats are really doing it for me. And even though I'm not a light color interior kind of person, I think this chalk has a nice, unique feel to it, which is interesting because it shouldn't affect the feel, but how you feel when you're inside it. I like the way it's making me feel. Also, the head-up display, very clear graphics, gives me my whole directions from the navigation, my speed, the whole shabam. But even when the road isn't twisty and you're just driving along, it really does a great job of keeping the interior very isolated from all of the things that are happening on the exterior. You know, all of these bumps in the road, all the different divots and everything else can easily be transmitted through the chassis into the interior and into the actual seat, which, believe it or not, can cause more stress, more driver fatigue on a longer drive. But like I said, with the way the seats are padded, the shape of the frames of the seats, it does a really, really great job. Plus, I like the way that the steering wheel is designed because it gives you such a clear view of the digital gauge cluster, and then getting to the new 12-inch infotainment system screen is well within reach. It's just, I've said it once, I'll say it again like a lot of other people, I just wish there were some physical knobs. But it is definitely clean with that floating iPad style. But I hope that this has been a good overall review of what the Atlas is bringing for 2024. We're gonna get back and wrap this one up, so I'll see you in a split second. All right, guys, it's been a fun day out here in upstate New York. Definitely want to thank the whole Volkswagen team for inviting us for this first drive of the updated 2024 Volkswagen Atlas. Let me know what you think. Has Volkswagen made the right changes outside, under the hood, on that interior to make it the better SUV, midsize SUV over a Toyota Highlander? Let me know how you feel about it down in that comment section. But if you're new to the channel, you're on your way out, hit that subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile coming back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Ladies Rise family. Of course, we need to give it up. Stephen Flood Photography, making the magic happen. He got to go see where Woodstock took place. And a lot of people don't realize Stephen used to be a musician himself, a singer in a band. Boy, would I like to hear some of those songs. Let me know down in the comment section if you want me to do a review of Stephen's singing capabilities and abilities. Let me know down in the comment section. But thank you, Stephen, for all that you do. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.